To the topic that Mr. Fong raised regarding the recent contract signed with academic workers. First of all, I want to state that I had the privilege of being a lecturer at UCLA this past fall. For the record, an unpaid lecturer, but I did support the strike, and I did honor the picket line. I felt that it was very important, especially with the academic workers, with the issues being raised, simply to be able to afford to live in the communities that they are working in, as a vital, absolutely essential component of what makes our University of California great, whether it's our teaching assistants or academic researchers. Having said that, I am also very concerned about how the University of California is planning to pay for the additional costs. And I'm concerned about its potential impact on the academic quality and the quality of research conducted at our University of California. I know that, could you specifically address what is the estimated total cost of the contract recently signed for academic workers, and how is the University of California planning to pay for those costs?
Well, first, thank you. This was a very large and historic contract that we were pleased to be able to sign toward the end of the year, and looking forward very much to moving forward. We understand the pressures that are on all of our, everyone who works for the University of California, and particularly on these academic employees. And that was the reason we went into, as we do with all of our represented employees, we go into our contract negotiations thinking very seriously and sensitively about the needs that they have in their own families and their lives. As we have, about 290,000 students, but we have about 230,000 employees. So not exactly, but roughly equal size there. And so supporting our staff and those who work for us broadly is a critical part of our mission. I have five things that have been guiding points for me over the last 30 years of university leadership. I'll tell you what they are. One is education is critical to us. The second is research is critical to us. Third is patient care is critical to us. Those things are very, very important. Fourth, we have to work in a fiscally responsible way. We have to work within our budget. And five, we have to support our workforce. And so all of our programs as they go forward have those five components. What to do for education, what for research, what for patient care. Is it fiscally responsible? Does it support our workforce? So we care about those things. When we have a new contract that's a large contract, we then have to implement that, and that requires adjustments, and it is going to be require active work in all of our campuses. These particular working circumstances, there are thousands of different relationships here. It says you were teaching a class. That was one set of relationships. We have individual employees working in individual labs. We have some faculty members who have one or two employees working with them. Others have many more. Each of those this is made up of the combination of all of those things together. And when there's a change, we have to adjust and make sure that things are aligned perfectly. So the exact answer to each of those is going to be different depending on the circumstances. Let me just say, I was for many years a faculty member. I had grants. You work on a grant for a while, that's great. You have that grant funded, then you complete that work, you apply for, get funded for something different. Those things are adjusting day in, day out. Also, we teach different courses. I was looking at the course catalog for UC Berkeley, and there was different majors at Berkeley. There are 160, 180 majors at Berkeley. And I was looking at one that's called Geospatial Information Science and Technology as a major. And I won't do this to you, but if I asked you, what does that mean? I will say that it's a challenge. There are many new courses and directions of study that we undertake, and so things adjust as the curriculum evolves moving forward. So the paying for this will then mean adjusting as the university continues to evolve forward, and there'll be a variety of different solutions. But again, everyone's working actively on those even today.
President Drake, I certainly appreciate, your explaining the complexities, but I surely the University of California Board of Regents must have some dollar figure that they're planning for in terms of the total cost of the contract. What would that be?
Yeah, so the dollar figure, the total cost of the contract, let me just make sure I can get it correctly. I'm going to do this from, well, let me say this, I could do it from memory, but better for me to give you the actual numbers, and let's do that after the time, okay? You want me to, I mean, the guesstimate is about, oh gosh, it's about $60 million this year, about 150, 200 additional next year, and a similar amount the year after that for about 325 to 350 would be the guesstimate increment increase for this group of workers. But I'll say that's a guesstimate, and that there's flexibility in there that makes those numbers, ballpark figures, as unequal as the thousands of different relationships I mentioned.
Okay.
That's fair enough. I want to answer you, but I don't want to say anything that's just specifically and incorrect.
Thank you, sir. So those are significant costs. How is the University of California planning to pay for those costs?
Yeah, so significant costs on a very large, this is 48,000 employees, so this is on a budget of $2.5 billion plus minus. So the increment is large, but it's on a very large base. And as I said, again, those are multiple different relationships on different campuses with different, down to the individual faculty members. So the adjustments that will take place will be based on the circumstances in each of those relationships.
Have there been any directives or guidelines to chancellors of our UC campuses as to how to plan for these increased costs?
No directives have been issued on this, no.
I wanted to bring to your attention, or at least you may be aware of this. I have a copy of an email here that went to the faculty of the University of California, Davis, and it discusses plans that at least this campus appeared to be taking to plan for these increased costs. And the sentence that I found most concerning was that in the email, it indicates or suggests to the faculty members to please, quote, please consider reducing enrollment of new PhD students by as much as 20%, so that we can take the 2023-2024 academic year to determine new models for our education and research. A 20% decrease in PhD students seems to be a significant setback for, not only our University of California as the premier research institution in our state, if not in the country or in the world. So I'm very concerned that there appears to be directives or guidelines to cut back as many as 1 out of 5 PhD students studying at the University of California Davis campus. And of course, that translates into less teaching assistants for our undergraduate students. It translates into less researchers for faculty members to be able to support their research. And I know that this has been part of a nationwide debate about the outdated model of our universities in terms of its relying on academic workers as kind of like indentured servants, where they have the mixed role of being graduate students while at the same time being essential workers in our university system to provide not only the instructional support, but also the research. Could you comment on what, if we're looking at 1 out of 5 PhD students being cut back, what does that mean for the future of the University of California?
Yeah, so first, I don't know who that email came from or who it went to. If you ask me what things might have been considered by the 11,000 faculty members we have, I mean, people can consider a lot of things, but that's not a directive that came from me or from my office and first. So no, we wouldn't do such a thing. Second, I don't know what solution that was. Even in the email, it said consider. So in the range of things that actually occur, the difference between what is considered, which would be large, and what actually occurs, that's going to be something that's often different than what is considered, of course. And so that's, I think, will be more the reality that we see, very much so. Third, I'd use a different word than indentured servant, just different phrase. I appreciate the challenge that my son is a new assistant professor, and so I watched him go through graduate school just now at one of our campuses. My daughter-in-law is in the same position, different campus, but same thing, and certainly understood the funding challenges they had. The new contract will be among the most generous in the country. Certainly for a public research institution, there's never been a contract this supportive and this generous that has existed before, and it was done with the recognition that we need to do our best to be able to support our students as they're getting this very valuable training and outcome at the end of the term, which is being trained to go out and be leaders of tomorrow. So that is the goal. We work with our students. We want them to be successful. We recruit and attract students to be the very best students we can have, and we have among the leading graduate programs, honestly, in the world because of that. So supporting that part of our enterprise is critically important to our success, and we are working every day to make these programs even more successful.
Finally, I'd just like to wrap up my comments. It's my understanding that the University of California is probably ahead of the rest of the nation in terms of this contract entered into with the academic workers. I know that California can often be proud of being progressive and supporting things like worker rights, but of course, I'm sure you're thinking, and the rest of the university is thinking, well, the legislature, you supported the strike. Now it's time for you to pay for it. Yeah, I just wanted to. My closing comment is that I know that being the first in the country may place the University of California at a competitive disadvantage in terms of being able to not only attract PhD students, especially if we're considering cutting back on the number of graduate students, although I know that there is also the ongoing commitment to increase the number of graduate students, but also its impact on attracting faculty. If they can't have the research support from their graduate students, that I'm concerned that it's going to impact the university's ability to be able to attract top faculty talent. And so, yeah, I wanted to see if you had any comments on that.
Oh, just to agree with you, you have taught at our campuses as I do, and there's a balance in all these things. It's really, we want to be the very best we can be. We are honestly proud and pleased and flattered at the way we are perceived by the world, by the students who choose to come and be educated with us. Our faculty is unrivaled worldwide for the commitment and the productivity and the impact they make on society, and that's what the University of California stands for. That's our daily work. All of these things are in balance. To be the best, you have to put the best effort in. The costs of those things are real. The costs of living in California are real, and we try to balance all of those things. So when I gave you my 5 principles from 1990, I mean, the tried and true, we want to be the best educational system we can possibly be, high graduation rates, inclusion, diversity, support, all of those things. Our research really is second to none, and you know that. We are among the world's leading researchers in so many areas, and that's our daily commitment is to continue to push that forward. Our patient care, again, one of our academic centers was rated #1 in the world recently for being an academic medical center. We continue to want to do that for all those things that are important. And then we want to take care of our employees and our workers and make sure this is an outstanding place to have a career. I've had a career at the university, and it's been great. I have staff members and colleagues who have been working with me for decades, as Jolene was mentioning earlier. And then finally, we have to do this within a fiscal envelope that makes sense, that works. We have the bottom line has to balance. And so we work on all of these things together and pushing ourselves forward to be at and stay at the front of the highest quality educational system that we can possibly be. So, and we truly appreciate your commitment and support to those things. It makes all the difference.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. I just have maybe a follow-up question for this on the contract. And thank you for the questions. Just a big picture on the budget. I know when this was happening, some were saying, "Oh, can we put a little bit more in the budget to take care of this?" And same with the CSU as well. And the answer is no. You know, we funded 5% increase, which is a lot. We're going to hear from childcare people in 3 weeks who got a 0% increase, and a bunch of healthcare programs who got 0. So it's a lift to get to the 5%. And frankly, if the budget situation looks like Department of Finance is alluding to, the 5% in May could be 4% or 3%. So it could go the opposite direction. But the big picture is that, we assume that the university signed this contract knowing how much money they have. And it's not insignificant what the state is providing. So as the agenda shows, that the general fund piece for the UC is now about $4.3 billion as of last year's budget, which is $1 billion more than just 2 years ago, right? Not to mention about $1 billion that we put in through our financial aid systems for the UC. So that's, roughly $5.5 billion in general fund. Not to mention the student fee revenue you get from your students, from our families across California. Not to mention the $20+ billion in federal research and medical money that you get. So a lot of these folks work in the entirety of the whole UC system. So it's a multi-billion-dollar university. 30 billion is enormous, more than many state budgets across the nation. And we assume that you and expect that you sign this contract and have the resources to cover it, and not to come back and ask for any more. So